going into the last week of the session, I'm actually feeling the most awake at this eggs and issues than any of the others. You can believe that. Yesterday, the Executive Appropriations Committee met after both the House and the Senate adjourned in order to adopt proposal for the budget bills. So let me tell you a little bit about what's in those bills. I can't tell you for sure this is what's going to happen, but this is the proposal from the Executive Appropriations Committee to the legislature, and you will see in the next couple of days, probably, hopefully, Monday, Tuesday, we will finish work on the state budget. We have the main budget, which we've already passed the base budget. So the vast majority of the money is already spent, if you will. It is the base budget. We passed that at the beginning of the session. We also have the base budget for public education, and that has already passed as well. What we're talking about now is the new funding or changes to the base budget that we've worked on throughout the session. So we'll have a budget bill. On the general state budget, we will have another bill that has to do with public education. Then on the last night of the session, generally we have what is lovingly called the Bill of Bills. And the Bill of Bills is the cleanup for all the little things that we've, forgot, or somebody came and said, oh, you need to switch this number, or those kinds of things. We need a small little appropriation over here for this issue. A lot of times the governor comes to us after we pass all of the budget and says, oh, you forgot this, or I need a shift in a program here, or something like that. So the Bill of Bills will happen on Thursday night. So anyway, here's what is in this proposal. We have a greater than 1% increase in compensation to higher education and state employees. We have a greater than 1% increase in the WPU. We have with a bill that Representative Dougal has run and has passed the House, has yet to pass the Senate, but with that bill combined with increased funding, we will be able to put 15 to 20 new troopers on the road, which we're very happy about. In higher education, beyond the increase in compensation, we are able to, we're looking for $4 million to fund equity, and that will be in the proposal, and that is, I guess, how we would say it here in Utah County for UVU, to begin to right some of the past injustices that have happened there. So we're happy about that. We also have $4 million proposed for institutional priorities in higher education. We were able to propose some more money for the engineering initiative, which we all know is a lot of the companies who are coming here to Utah are high-tech companies, and they're looking for engineers, and so we're going to invest in the engineering programs at our universities in order to get more graduates there in engineering. We also have a proposal to fund, continue to fund U-STAR, which is a program that brings in very high-level Nobel Prize type research teams that come to our universities and do research and have multiple spin-off companies that increase the economy. So we're looking at that. Capital improvement, this is something that we've been concerned about for a couple of years with the budget reductions. We've had to decrease the amount of money that goes for AR&I, which is like remodeling and new windows and all the things that you would do when you have to take care of your state buildings. We're proposing that we put $30 million of one-time money into AR&I, which will get us almost to 0.9%, which is our goal. It's about 0.84%. Let's see. Talked a little bit about public education. We will fully fund enrollment growth. We will fund greater than 1% in the WPU.
Rainy day fund.
Don't know about the rainy day fund yet, but we are working on that. We would, that is one of the top goals of both the Senate and the House Republican caucus, is to take some money and put it in the rainy day fund. We have, not completely, but we have run down the balances of all of our reserve accounts in these last couple of years. One of our goals is to begin to replenish those accounts, and so we're looking very seriously at putting a significant amount of money back into the rainy day fund. And that will be decided probably in the Bill of Bills. One thing that I know Dean talked a little bit about, Representative Sunday, is the Medicaid issue. You need to know that we have, this year we're putting in approaching $50 million just in caseload growth in Medicaid. Okay, that's more than growth in public education. And it really is true. If we continue to get these mandates from the federal government, we continue to be forced to increase these programs. Medicaid social services will be our only subcommittee. It will completely take over the state budget. It is a serious problem. It is something that we need our federal partners to help us with. We're beginning to see this happening, that Medicaid growth is greater than public education. And these are entitlement programs, these are partnership programs with the federal government, and we've got to have help from our federal partners on that issue. We were able to look at the disabilities waiting list this year. We're proposing a small increase there. These are our most vulnerable people who are unable to care for themselves, and so we're looking to put a little bit of money there. We also have a very small little program, a little over $100,000, which goes to train our law enforcement officers on how to deal with individuals who are mentally ill and maybe having a mental issue when they approach them, and how to deal with that so that we don't have some tragic outcomes there. And so that's something that I know a few of my constituents have contacted me about, felt very strongly about that program. So that's just a really tiny, I mean, that's decimal dust when you look at the $12 million budget, but I think it's a very important training program for our law enforcement officers. Let's see, a couple of other things. We are looking at proposing that the legislature extend the recycling zone tax credit. We have many small businesses as well as some large businesses who are engaged in recycling efforts, metals and other recyclables, and this is a tax credit that has sunsetted the last couple of years, and so we're looking at reinstituting that one, as well as research and development. I know that Senator Valentine has been working on the research and development tax credit as well, so that will help a lot of our medical device industries. So there are a few tax cuts in there as well. We're proud about that. Let me look, let me see what else is on this list.
Becky, while you're on that, the life sciences is going to be a big deal that's over in the House now.
I heard earlier, I think Senator Valentine talked about some of the potential buildings that were out there. The biggest project, the most critical project for the state, well, I think for the state is UVU, but I'm not the entire state, so you have to kind of, you got to look at all of the needs, and as prioritized by the legislature and the state building board is infrastructure needs at the University of Utah. They have, in my opinion, they have neglected their infrastructure for many years and chosen to use money in other places, and now they are in a crisis. And it is the taxpayers who must now pay for that crisis. They have rolling blackouts at the University of Utah. This is our flagship institution where there's significant research going on. It's an extremely frustrating issue for me because I believe that they have not addressed those issues as other universities have in a timely way, but now we are in a crisis situation. What they need there is approximately $100 million to fix the infrastructure, the chillers, the heaters, all of that, the electrical, all of that at the university. So we have proposed for $22 million of one-time money to begin work on that at the University of Utah. We have also proposed that we provide planning money for the Ogden Juvenile Courts building, which is badly needed. They need a new juvenile court building there in downtown Ogden, as well as planning money for the university, or for Utah Valley University for our classroom building. So we hope that we will be able to get support from the entire legislature on planning money for the new classroom building. So it's not everything that we wanted, but it's a step in the right direction for UVU. We're also going to continue to fund teacher supplies and materials for our public education teachers. Another indication, just Medicaid caseload growth from last year that we needed to make up for this year is another $35 million. So if you add the approximately 50 plus the 35, you can see we're approaching $100 million a year of your taxpayer dollars in increased caseload in an entitlement program. That's a significant chunk of change. We need to be very, very aware of what is happening in health and human services. Another very small little thing that we help with is we help with something called assistive technology for individuals with disabilities. These are things like wheelchairs and ramps for their homes, other technologies, devices that help individuals with disabilities be independent so that they can continue to live in their homes, so they can continue to be employed and be contributing tax-paying citizens as opposed to the alternative. So it's a very small program, but something that we believe is a good buy for the taxpayer in terms of keeping people in their homes and productive tax-paying citizens. So we're looking at a small increase in that program as well. And finally, we were able to, a couple of years ago, buy some, or get some property and get the funding for a veterans nursing home in Payson for all of central Utah. Did anybody attend the groundbreaking? I did too. It was great. Great groundbreaking on some property on the west side of the freeway down in Payson. They have some significant startup costs, some impact fees to the city of Payson, and so we are looking at proposing that we help them a little bit with the startup costs to get that home built. We have a veterans home in Ogden. There's another one that we just had a groundbreaking for in Washington County, and this one in Utah County. So we feel pretty strongly about that veterans nursing home and want to help them out. So there's a lot of other little small things, but I think that's a good start for what's out there as a proposal to the legislature. We will be debating that. Our staff is busy all weekend. They will stay basically 24 hours today and tomorrow at the Capitol. Our staff will be drafting this legislation, the budget bills. We will be presenting those to both the House and the Senate on Monday, and hopefully by Tuesday night we'll have the vast majority of the budget done, and then all the little technical kind of last minute things by the time we end at midnight on Thursdays. Steve.
Becky, and I apologize if I missed this, but the highways continue to be a major priority for the chamber, along with healthcare mandates and UDUs certainly, and U-Star and other things. But where did we end up on the idea of the savings that we had on I-15 being able to continue to pace it? Is that a totally dead issue? Or
no, that's not a dead issue. That's another issue that needs to be debated in the Senate. The House has passed its first substitute, House Bill 183, I believe. Representative Dee, our majority leader, is the sponsor of that legislation. We anticipate over $200 million in savings on the I-15 project, right, which is I don't know how to say, it's fantastic, it's a miracle, it's great, whatever. There's frankly no words to describe how, as frustrating as this project is, it is an incredible project, one I think we can all be proud of. And when we meet here next year, it will be done.
Yeah.
Right? So it'll be done.
That's the point, is it?
Yes, the savings there for a couple of years we've known there's going to be a little bit of savings. So at first we anticipated just maybe $30 to $50 million, and UDOT as well as the southern part of the county, our mayors down there were saying, well, why don't we just put another lane down to Payson? This is a Utah County project. It was bid as here's how much money you have, do as much as you can. And so it was proposed, and we had intent language in the last two budgets that said if there is savings from the I-15 project, the first thing that we'd like that money to be used for is to continue with one lane expansion down to Payson. So that's always been the intent of the legislature. It now appears there's much more. There's approximately $200 million there. And so now, as is always, when there's money, it's a feeding frenzy, right? Everybody's like, ooh, more money. So where are we going to use that money? And there's some competing philosophies in terms of, does the legislature say, here's all the projects you're going to fund, or do we give that money to, allow the Transportation Commission to look at the needs statewide and make those decisions. So we've kind of come to a middle ground. Another issue we have is that our bonding capacity is, we're right up against our statutory limit. In fact, this year we're a little bit above it because of the decrease in property values that has happened over the last couple of years. We kind of had a perfect storm in terms of, we knew these years were going to be tight anyway because of the amount of bonding we needed for this project, but then the property values went down as well, and so we're kind of at a, like I said, a perfect storm. So there's great concern about the amount of debt that we carry right now, and so there's, it looks like we will not bond for, I believe it's $120 million. We will just take that off the table and say we are not going to go into debt for that. We're going to save the taxpayers the cost of that debt, but there will still be $80 to $100 million of capacity in there to do other projects, and there is a list of projects. The Payson project is the #1 project on
My
that list.
understanding, Andrew, where did Andrew go?
He left earlier.
Okay, my understanding was
On behalf of Andrew and the chamber and the transportation committee, he had to go to a merit match meeting at BYU. Thank you
So
very
does my
much.
son. I hope he's there.
Thank you.
My understanding was it was an extra $30 million to finish it to Payson.
It's about, what's listed in the bill is it's $35 million for the to add one lane to Payson. There is also $12 million for the Vineyard Connector in that bill issue right there in Vineyard. University, or Utah Valley University purchased some land there just recently to build some fields, and so do some sports fields. They need access to that property, and so that will really help UVU. I think potentially it's land banking. You know, they'll eventually use it probably for buildings. I don't know, Val, you might know.
Right here.
Val.
Yeah, it's a great pickup for us, 100 acres out there, and down the road it could be very useful.
Yes, so there we have some access issues to there, so that Vineyard Connector portion there will help with that. And then there's also $18 million included for the West Side Connector in Provo. And that, frankly, is a project that really wasn't on anyone's list because it's kind of a far out project, if you will. But it was actually, frankly, the Obama administration that sped up the EIS on that project. So it's moved up the list for that reason. UDOT was not anticipating it would be ready as soon as it is, but that's one that is ready to go. So there'll be $18 million to contribute to the West Side Connector.
So do you think by now, next Thursday, there may be a shot that we would get the chance to continue that Payson?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Steve, the question in the Senate was raised, and Andrew's going to get us information. I think the Senate is supportive of that, but wanted some information about the relative priority of I-15 from where the reconstruction in Salt Lake County stopped and where it began in Utah County versus, and it's not a matter of traffic volume, but rather where is the choke points, where's the gridlock. And so we're going to, we talked about it yesterday. I believe the Senate's going to concur with the House. There may be a few little tweaks, but I think for the most part, we get that information, make the case, and I think we're going to get that.
So you're aware there's other projects across the state. There's some projects in Salt Lake County, Riverdale Road. This is a project that we've been working on kind of piecemeal in Ogden for many years, and this, I believe what's listed in this bill would allow them to completely finish the rebuild of Riverdale Road.
I think I can speak for all the mayors. We are so pleased with this I-15 project, and it's been, yes, it's been a terrible construction project, but given the complexity of what they're doing, I think everybody realizes this is a fantastic project. And remember, this was supposed to stop at Provo.
Yeah, we thought, oh, if we can only, I mean, UDOT came to me and said, we just hope, you know, they put it out to bid, and they said, we just hope we get to Center Street. I said, you darn well better get to Center Street. And then they came back and said, not only do we get to Spanish Fork, but they're gonna rebuild the Highway 6 interchange, and I was just, I couldn't believe it.
So from the city's perspective, first of all, to have the project, and then to have the project go so well, and then to get it down, hopefully to Payson, and from Provo's selfish perspective, to have the West Side Connector benefit from this as well. Really a fabulous project from top to bottom. Everybody that's been involved has just done a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's just, it's wonderful, and those of us who were around when we did I-15 in Salt Lake County, we all remember the two lanes, right? Not a good thing, and this contractor, this project is just unbelievable. I mean, there's 3 lanes at least, both ways, all the time. once in a while, small little closures, but I am so impressed by this contractor and the amount of work that the collaborative effort with UDOT. I think this is a project that I think should be used as a model throughout the country for major rebuild of an interstate. And remember, this is all state money. The federal government has not helped us with this project at all.
And county.
And county.
A quick question. I was wondering, since the legislature has just been so generous in rededicating the interstate as the Veterans Memorial Highway, I was wondering if there's any possibility you might spend some of that $200 million in savings in billboards that might tell people that they're driving on the Veterans Memorial Highway.
Signage is what you're talking about, the Veterans Memorial Highway. Yeah, I lived in Idaho before coming here to BYU, and that was one of the things that surprised me is when you approached me a couple of years ago and said, you know, the Veterans Memorial Highway, I said, yeah, I know that. Because I would drive across the border, and the signs are at the borders of the states. That's where you read it's the Veterans Memorial Highway. There's no other signage. Isn't that a federal deal?
Yes.
That's a federal deal that you can only put that sign at the state borders to identify.
At the beginning, at the end
That's right,
of
at the beginning.
the segment of the highway that's so designated.
So anyway, so I don't know. I don't think it'll take millions of dollars to do those signs, but let's work on that.
About $400 a month each.
There you go.
Why don't you drive down to Arizona?
I
They have them designated in sections.
And I grew up in Arizona.
Okay, if you've noticed, every section down there on the freeways is marked this conflict, that conflict. Kudos to John.
Yes.
And
To Chris.
And, you know, you guys have done it from just a terrific job. I've looked on the interstate maps all over nationwide. But without people like you and John, you guys are doing a terrific job.
Thank you.
I want to put in a commercial real quick. March the 12th, John, put it on your calendar, at 7 p.m. I would really like you to watch, all of you, Mayor, you too, I know you're sitting in front of me, but there is going to be a documentary on Vietnam veterans. Please watch this. We're also, some of us have indicated about the Bosnian War. All the Desert Storm guys that are coming home, they're in trouble. That's why we need the rest home down in Payson. There is a need for these kids. You haven't seen these Iraqi kids. Go to the VA hospital. John's been up there, I know he has. I've heard quite a few people say, we need that rest home down there. There's a lot of these kids coming home from Iraq. They're in wheelchairs, and they have no place to go. And if you don't believe me, you go to the VA hospital. Mr. Ashton, I think you ought to go up there once too. It would be a real eye-opener for you. That's a beautiful hospital to go visit if you want to see some veterans who are in real need. Sorry to break up your communications.
Let me mention one more thing. I asked our caucus on Thursday or Friday, one of those days, I don't know what day it is. It all melds into one. I haven't had a February for 14 years, but anyway. I asked our caucus, we all know, Chris talked about the fact that he won't be seeking re-election. We have many members of the House who are not seeking re-election, and I just said, look, if any of you are thinking about not coming back or you're not going to file, would you please come to a member of leadership and please just let us know. We're not going to publish it. We're not going to call Randy at the Herald and tell him, but we're not getting, but we kind of, we'd like to know so we can look at what the future might be. I began to have members of the body come into my office and just privately tell me their intentions, and it's going to be, frankly, a fairly emotional week for me in terms of dealing with the realization that a lot of my very, very good and true friends might not be coming back. Anyway, so.
Becky, just for the sake of this group, 7 positions are open in Utah Valley in the legislature, is that correct?
I think that's right.
And you have to sign up for those who have interest.
Filing begins on Friday morning and will go till the next Thursday at 5 p.m.
By Thursday at 5 p.m., you have to have signed up if you intend to run. And the caucuses are held.
That Thursday night at 7.
And
on
the
15th.
Democrats on what day?
On Tuesday the 13th at 7.